What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone we got Mike LePond from Symphony X and Silent Assassins. Thank you for your time today, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, great to be here. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. You got Whore of Babylon coming out on May 29th. What I'm curious about is, being that this is the third album in the Silent Assassins series, do you consider this just picking up where you left off? Like, is it kind of like, do you kind of have a formula in the sound, or do you experiment a little bit more with this project?
I think, for the most part, it's kind of got a formula going, from the first two albums, and I'm just continuing. I think if I had to find something that's a little different, I think on this album, I tended to write lyrics first, as opposed to music first, and by doing that, I was kind of able to look at the lyrics and kind of tailor the music to the vibe of what's being said. So if there was, something really dark, I can make I'll know to make the music a little heavier. If it's something more sad, I'll make the music a little more melancholy or something like that. So it was something that I was not really that much used to, but I think for this album it really worked out really cool.
That's interesting. Aren't you ever worried that you'll have like the best lyrics ever, and then they always go like one or two syllables over or under the actual arrangements?
That's a very, very good point. So a lot of times maybe I'll write this kind of poem, and then you want to put music to it, and then you got a cool riff, and you want to say the line, but the line just doesn't fit. And then, you got to try to like shorten the line or make the line longer and say what you want to say. And, I've agonized over this for many hours. It's fun, but it's frustrating at times.
Yeah. You've mentioned that because I know that with Silent Assassins, you're addressing subject matters such as like mythology and history and all that. So obviously lyrics and a concept can determine the outcome of the music itself, right?
Yeah, I love just being like a storyteller. I love in the lyrics telling a story and then trying to put the music with it, kind of like a little 5-minute movie. And sometimes there's something where, oh man, I gotta say this, or it doesn't make sense anymore, and you can't fit it, and you're like, oh my god, what do I do? And then sometimes I just say, it is what it is, blow it off, and then other times maybe I'll add some musical part or alter the music in some way so I could get the right words in.
Mm-hmm. Being that you did kind of like change the direction of the songwriting process for Whore of Babylon, do you just consider this, like, can this conceptually be just a follow-up to Pawn and Prophecy, or do you think that this is kind of like standing out a little bit on its own conceptually?
No, honestly, I think it's along the same lines as Pawn and Prophecy and the self-titled first album. I guess once I started to, once I decided what kind of lyrical subject matter I was going to go for, I kind of stuck with the same thing on all the albums, so it's really not that much different, just, straight ahead heavy metal, power metal, and then, with a little Celtic folk music thrown in.
Mm-hmm. Do you like to leave lyricism open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe engage the listener into the story that you're singing about?
Yeah, I was never good at writing lyrics that are open to interpretation, I wish I was, because I think it's really, really cool. Like, sometimes, I'll read lyrics from Aerosmith or, a band like that where I just can't, there's no real direction of the lyrics. It's just going all over the place, and and I guess you could just interpret those lyrics in so many different ways. I just was never really good at doing that. So my strong point is just kind of telling a story.
Yeah, and I'd imagine being that you do tell a story, I feel like Whore of Babylon, especially you should listen to it from the first song. You probably don't recommend that a listener listens to this on shuffle, right? They should start off with Dracula's Son and end with Avalon.
Oh yeah, when I put together an album, I'm always conscious of the flow of the album. I usually like to start out with a bang, with a fast tune, and then just kind of meander through. But there's always a kind of a flow, and that goes up, down, and back up. And especially I'm talking right now to the younger listeners. Don't just find a single and listen to that. Really listen to the whole album, because it's meant to be a full piece of art. And I really would hope that in the future that doesn't become lost. The whole idea of just listening to an album from front to back.
Yeah, for me personally, unless if it's just a straight up death metal album like a Cannibal Corpse or Deicide, I feel like that there's no such thing as a single representing the whole entire album, or even the catalog for that matter.
Right. No, that's definitely a good point. And also, especially with Symphony X, that's even more prevalent with that band, because every album is very conceptual, and it just, every song kind of leads into the other one, and it kind of advances a storyline, so that's even more conceptual. So pretty much, I guess a lot of the things I do require, well, at least I would hope that the fans will listen from beginning to end.
Yeah. Well, it seems like it's not just about the music. It seems like the presentation of it is part of that. The first thing that actually intrigued me was the album artwork for this new album as well. I just love the way that looked. I'd imagine that, the presentation, the gear you use, you try to make every aspect of it count in a way, right?
Oh, yeah. Putting it together is, it's a monumental task. It's a labor of love for sure, but it's a monumental task. And, it's like with the Silent Assassin stuff, I really don't have a full band to say, hey, all right, you come up with this, and then you come up with this. It's all got to come from me. And, I kind of really go over every little aspect. With the album cover, I was kind of looking for, I just felt that too many album covers these days just look like fantasy art, and I wanted to just come up with something a little bit different, maybe something almost kind of retro 80s kind of thing. And so I was going back and forth with my friend who is the artist, I should say. Mm-hmm. And then she just came up with this idea, and it was just kind of simple but to the point. It wasn't too overstated, and that's what I liked about it.
Yeah, I thought that, obviously never judge a book or an album in this case by its cover, but this looks like it could be a black metal album cover. This looks like it could be a flyer for the Rocky Horror Picture Show. That's what I love about it. It almost seems like it could be visually intriguing anywhere you look.
Oh, that's a good point. I never heard that said about it, but I guess thinking about it, yeah, I guess you're right. You can't really. It could go in a lot of different directions, and I guess in the end, that's actually a very good thing.
Thank you. Now, when it comes to all the projects that you're involved with, whether it is Silent Assassins or Symphony X or Effector or Russell Boss or anybody, is there a different mind frame depending on the project that you are working with, or is there kind of because you're bringing the same brain everywhere you go? At least I hope that there's a usual method behind the madness that applies to everything.
No, it's very different with each band project, what have you. And actually, I love that aspect about it, because I have to play different roles. With the Silent Assassins, I have to pretty much write everything, do everything. Now with Symphony X, our guitar player Michael Romeo will write 95% of everything, and there I could just concentrate more on just the bass playing, but and I'll help out with some lyrics or some music here and there, but it's kind of a limited role. And then other bands like Ross the Boss, it's kind of something in between. You know what I mean? Like I'll help Ross write, and so I kind of have there. It's kind of more like we're almost like equal with all the writing and preparing of the stuff. So everything is kind of different, but in a way it's cool. Sometimes I write, sometimes I help arrange, and that's fun too. And so whatever I'm called to do in these projects is a learning experience, and I have fun doing it.
Yeah, I'd imagine it has to teach you new things on how to apply. Like maybe something you've learned from Symphony X you could apply to Silent Assassins, or something you've learned from Effector or Heathen's Rage, or like that. Maybe it could help you apply to other projects, or do you try to keep them all separate entities?
Well, I mean, definitely one example of what you're saying is, coming in from Symphony X, I learned so much being in Symphony X, because I mean these guys are so amazingly talented, and I've learned so much about songwriting, and actually that's where I was first kind of introduced of writing lyrics before the music, and I had never even conceived of it before I joined Symphony X, and then I kind of saw it being put into practice, and then I kind of got it, and it made sense. So I think a lot of what I learned in Symphony X, I applied to the Silent Assassin stuff, and I think I couldn't have made the records this good if I wasn't in Symphony X.
Mm-hmm. Kind of going back to the concept and the stories of the album, because being that you do, tackle fantasies and, just sort of like elements of history, though, but is there any vestige of your personal life invested into the music as well?
Yeah, that's another thing I was just never good at, writing stuff that's introspective. I've tried to do that at some point, but it just never... I just can't put it into words for some reason, Some writers are so good at that, and another project I'm in called Dead Risen, the singer, he writes from an introspective standpoint, and I really appreciate that he could do that. It's really awesome to see how he puts it on paper, but for me personally, I've tried, I just can't do it.
Yeah, every artist is their own person, so I mean,
yeah.
I think the fact that you're looking at music outside of yourself, I feel like with whether I'm listening to Symphony X or Silent Assassins or anything, I'm learning a thing or two.
Yeah, I mean, and just being in a lot of these projects, I just get to appreciate the different musicians and the different things they all can bring to the table.
Definitely, and it has to help you evolve. It has to help you. We talked about songwriting and all that, but just technically playing as well. I mean, this isn't simple stuff that you're playing. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I joined Symphony X, I really had to step it up, because before Symphony X, I was just kind of like a hard rock, heavy metal player, and I was happy with that, but I had no idea, what I was getting into when I joined Symphony X. I mean, their music was so complex. So I finally got all that together, and I'm comfortable playing that stuff. But, even when I go to play with different bands, the musicians write in different ways, and they have different kind of chops, and sometimes they play different scales and things. So I always have to learn, which is great. I never want to just be stale. I always want to kind of learn and become a better player, a better writer, a better arranger.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to being recruited to join a band, like when you first joined Symphony X, or you were teaming up with Ross the Boss, do they tell you this is what we want to do and you execute it that way, or do they let you kind of bring a little bit of your own mix, having such a prolific resume?
Yeah, I mean all these bands are always really open to what I can bring to the table. For example, Ross the Boss. He wants me to write songs for him. He wants me to write songs with him. He wants me to arrange his songs to help him, and it's great because especially with Ross the Boss, because I was such a Manowar fan when I was younger, and now I get to actually write with the guy. It's kind of an amazing thing, very surreal. But I've never really had a band that tried to just say, all right, you have to do this, we're looking to do this, and just execute it,
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. I have 2 more questions for you. You ready for the most difficult question of the entire interview?
Yes, sir.
All right. How do you know when a song is done?
Oh, man, that is a rough one. For me personally, and I'm sure other guys are going to give you other, there's times where I just agonize over a note or a line, or I might just hear something that I say, man, that just sounds flat, and then other people are like, what are you talking about? What's wrong? And once I get to a point where, somewhere along the line, I will get to a point where I say, all right, I just give up. I'm out. I get to a point where I've agonized over it so much that I'm like, okay, I'm at the boiling point. I'm just walking away. I don't care anymore. And usually with every song I will get to that point, but it's really interesting because when in theory a song is never really complete. It just depends when the writer wants to walk away. So sometimes I struggle with that, but again, I love it, and I'm so lucky that I get to make these records.
Yeah, you're always worried like one extra note can make the song like the biggest hit you'll ever write, and then you don't incorporate that. Like it's always such a what if scenario.
I know, and then you think and then a few months later you might think about it, and you'll be like, does anybody care about one note or 2 seconds of a song? You know what I mean? But you love what you're doing so much, and you want it to be so good that you get so wrapped up in it,
Yeah, I've always said that what artists should do is they should pick their favorite song and then put out an album where they put like that same song playing like 10 times with like a certain note or tuning adjustment or something like that, and see if anybody actually notices.
Yeah, I mean, I think one time when I was obsessing over, man, is that guitar in tune? Michael Romeo said, "Here, let me let you listen to something." And he had the somehow I guess he got the original tracks from that famous Queen song, the most famous Queen song, and then he was able to break down each instrument individually, before it was mixed. And when I heard it all unmixed like that, I couldn't believe how out of tune it was.
Right?
And then it's like you hear it mixed, and it sounds like the greatest song on earth. And I'm like, so he goes, "Don't worry, okay?" Because and I was like, okay, you're right. I'm not going to obsess anymore.
Yeah, just like I feel like there's 2 places where what happens there stays there, and that's Las Vegas and the studio.
Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, definitely, no question.
Yep. And finally, just before we go, is there just anything you would like to promote? Like we maybe, obviously, thanks to a certain virus that shouldn't be named, and I don't want to give a promotion. But obviously touring's on hold right now. But is there anything with Symphony X or Silent Assassins or any of the other projects that you're involved in that you would like to promote? Like, you'd be expecting some new stuff or anything like that?
Sure. I first want to say that, originally the date for Silent Assassins was May, but now, because of our friend, Corona, it's now June 26th.
Ooh, okay. Thanks for telling me about that. I said that in the intro.
And beyond that, I guess everything else right now is kind of on hold. We're just all kind of waiting around till we get the green light, and then we're off to the races again. But, in the meantime, I'm just chilling out. I'm writing songs and doing what I got to do. But, again, the only thing I have on the queue right now is the Silent Assassins on June 26th.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. And this is a great time for creativity. I mean, so I'd imagine we'll probably, and being such a prolific artist, I'd imagine we'll probably get something from you again before the quarantine ends.
Yeah. I got some other things that are going to come out this year at some point. I just don't know what's going on. I know I have another band with Ross called Death Dealer, and with Sean Peck and I know that's supposed to come out this year at some point, but not really sure exactly.
Okay. Well, we look forward to hearing it, but thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Mike LePond from Silent Assassin, Symphony X, and a bunch of other bands. Be sure to pick up Whore of Babylon coming out on June 26th, not May 29th, and we'll see you next summer on Heavy New York.